Hello, my name is Melissa with Melissa Peterson Designs. I'm going to show you how I set up my design for my personal cutter before we get started on actually painting our blended rustic sign. Um, this is a 12 by 12 inch design space. I always start with a border, and since we're working on a round, I'm going to go ahead and make a round border approximately here, and I'm going to use my design space here for the dimensions of my circle. So let me get this set up here. So that's going to represent our 12 by 12, even though the sign we're going to work on actually is an 18-inch diameter. When we get done designing, I will then group everything that I have in here, and I'll use one of the corners to adjust my design to the size I need it when we get done. And I'm going to use this section, the open transform panel, and I'll hit the bullseye to make sure this is centered. And I'll go ahead and close that out for now. The last name starts with a P, and I'm going to go ahead and work on the monogram here. And I like Baskerville, and that's what the customer decided she wanted in the font. So we're going to go ahead and get this started, because this will be the part of the background when we get ready to do this. Because when we paint this sign, it's going to be in multiple layers. Now you notice all this extra dead space. I'm going to go ahead and ungroup this, and that way I usually do my monograms about a third of the size of my sign. So we're going to go just maybe up to almost 6 inches. I'm going to go ahead and center this like that. Okay, let me get the rest of the information here. And the other font that was agreed upon was Snell Roundhand. Let me see here. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be checking back in the private group to see if any questions pop up, if you want any confirmation or clarification of something that comes up. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and make this. We're going in browns. With these round designs, I usually do them in two different kinds of colors. I usually do browns, or I'll do black and grays. My customer here wants a brown. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in because I just like it better than having the red cut lines showing. That's just my personal preference. And we're going to go back over here and we're going to put this as Snell Roundhand. Snell Roundhand, yes, there we go. Okay, and let's go ahead and do the background color because that will help me with this, because when we do the lettering will be done in white. Let's see here. And you get to the browns. There we go. And these are kind of hard because there's no true brown option. And this will, I just use this as a reference, and I let my customer know that this will go over the colors of the actual paint or stain. Usually it's paint with these. And it's just an idea, because this is just a proof. And I'll put that over there. And if you go in reverse order and you mess up and this shows up on top, you can go up here and adjust that when you have your item highlighted. Okay, we're going to go ahead and size this the way I want it. Now you see the L on there, that is going to probably mess me up, so I'm going to show you what I do sometimes when I have a letter like that that's going to probably get in my way of designing. Now that I know I'm done with this, and you see that line there, I'm going to go ahead and ungroup. And I'm just going to click on the L, and I'm going to bring it down to about where I need it. And I'm going to have to scoot this over. There we go. And I'll just go ahead and regroup everything again. I don't always do this, but sometimes it's a necessity when you have letters like that. And go ahead and I'll put that back in my center. Okay, and everything's in the cut line, so I'm not going over. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the first names. And we've got Christian and Jensen. Pretty names, I love that. So I'm going to go ahead and make these in white. That's just my personal preference. Let's get these in. I'm going to use Snell round hand for all the fonts for this part of the project. And that's about 1 1/4 inches. I don't like going much smaller than that. Let's see. And if you need the graph on here, the markings on here, you can go up to this panel here, page setup, and you can actually show your graphs if you need help with measurements. But since I use this part, open transform panel, I don't usually do this. So I will keep it. Now I go back and find my colors. Oh boy, here we go. That's the kind of a, I guess we'll go with that. A little bit different. But at least my P shows up. So I'm going to go ahead and do something I normally don't do. And I'm going to scoot that in a little bit. Yeah, that's going to have to go up a little bit. Sometimes I'll overlap my fonts, other times I don't. I think I have to do that L a little bit less. Let me see. Ungroup. Highlight my L. Bring it down a little bit more. I'll have to bring everything back in again. Oop. Okay, so shift and then highlight each letter while I'm holding the shift key down. And group. Okay, and then we'll play with this placement. I kind of want this to come in a little bit as my personal preference without going below 1 1/4 inches. They both kind of have long names. Oh, I know what I want to do here. I'm going to make the P a little bit more pronounced. Ungroup. I'm going to bring this up. And I'm going to move it over. Okay, I like that. So you just kind of play around with it and just kind of see what you like. When I make my letters bigger or smaller, I try and stick with the corners and not the sides or the top and bottoms because that will kind of distort the font a little bit. I did do that with this one a little bit. I try and avoid that, but sometimes you just have to. And I don't want these overlapping, but I'm going to keep them kind of close. So that is there. Now I'm going to do my established. Let me see the information here. Okay. EST period May 28th, 2020. And I'm going to go ahead and make it pretty. Instead of the ugly red cut lines, I'll go ahead and change the font to Snell. And that's 1 1/4 inches. I think I'm going to go a little bit bigger with this one. Let's kind of get the placement, and then I'll worry about centering. Okay, kind of like that. Maybe we'll do the character spacing. I'm going to put that up Yeah, just a little bit. And we'll center it. So there is my design. So I'm going to go ahead and group these three. Okay. So when it comes time to cutting our stencils, I'll go ahead and pull this out for now. The first stencil I will cut will be this monogram, the P. I'm going to group this together. I won't do it now because I have it set for 12 inches. But that'll be the first thing I monogram. I'm going to go ahead and undo this. I could do multiple undos, but I might lose track of where I'm at. So there we go. So let me go ahead and select everything. I'm going to give us more room. We'll size it up to 18 inches. Okay, there, that's good. So 17.9. We'll group the border and the inside, because that will be one cut. And this will be another cut. And you notice the problem there? Right there is 12 inches. If we go over here, okay, we do have room, but it's awfully close, and I'm not worried about that for right now. I can adjust my design space. Come on. Well, let's change that. There we go. So I just had to change the orientation, and I could change my design space because I use contact paper. I use Duck brand. I like the marble design for some reason. That's just my favorite. And it comes in 12. It comes in either 18 or 20 inches wide, and it comes, I think, at 15 feet long. So I will cut some contact paper that measures up to 12 inches, and I'll have a 12 by 18 or 12 by 20 inch strip, and I'll feed that into my cutter, and I can have a P there. Let's see if I can fit in more. Yeah, that won't be able to get two cuts. So I'll have to do this separately. So basically, I'm going to have extra space here, but when it comes to my contact paper, I will just save it for another project. I can save that bottom part there. And when it comes time to cut my other piece, I won't be able to get the whole circle in, as you can see. Okay, I got to highlight it. Go up to Objects, and I'm going to rotate it. Okay. But I can cut that. So I will have, it's 20 inches what I have, not 18, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. So I will have part of the circle, the border, in my cut. I won't get this part. Let's go to Send and I'll show you. So that way when I go to cut this stencil, I'll have part of the circle border, and that will help with my placement when it comes time to actually using the stencil on my border. I'm going to have to go back and double check and make sure that is okay. So it looks like it might be too close. We're going to go ahead and rotate that back around. Highlight. Okay. Ungroup it because it's all grouped together. I just want that word. Oops, that's all grouped together too. Okay, I just want that word. Let's make sure we are centered. Well, that's not right. Let's check this one. Okay, yeah, that was off a little bit. So now I gotta make sure I want this where I want that. centered. I'm not sure how that got off, but it's always good to double check your work. And that's about where I wanted that. Yeah, about right there. So I'm going to group this first, my personal preference, and I'm going to group this with the border. And there we go. Okay, so the first thing we'll cut will be the P. Highlight, center, and I'll make sure we have it in our program. So if you use a Cricut, you'll have to kind of figure out how to do this on your Cricut, because I'm not familiar with Cricut, I'm afraid. Now I do use contact paper and I have my own settings. So you can go down to here to add new material, and then you can figure out your own settings. For mine, I have my blade set at 1. I have the force set at 5. And the speed at 3. I like slowing mine down. It actually came up, I think, a little bit higher than that, so I toned it down a little bit, so I'm okay. I can just sit there and let it take a little bit longer to cut, and I just do one pass. And I use a ratchet blade, so I'll have to make sure and change that to a ratchet blade. And then once I hook up my computer, because I don't have the Silhouette Bluetooth working on mine, so I have to actually put the cable in. I will come down here to send, and then I'll be ready to cut once I load my contact paper. So if you got any questions, let me know. If you're in the private Facebook group, if you join the private Facebook group, feel free to ask any questions, troubleshoot, let me know what's going on. And I hope you guys have a great day. We'll be checking back in here when we're getting ready to do our painting, so stay tuned.